delicious.
Better.
Very good.
It's One Piece.
Set sail for One Piece. I'm surprised they haven't done... One Piece is playing in the background, obviously. I'm surprised they haven't done like a One Piece or like a Naruto. Like they haven't done like a proper like anime integration for like Magic or something. You know?
Right. We got the anime arts from the Jumpstart sets, of course, but...
Yeah, but no like actual specific anime things. Like they've made references to stuff, but not like straight up, here's Naruto Uzumaki, Magic Commander, you know.
That's true. I mean, we're getting Final Fantasy here coming up soon.
I feel like it's only a matter of time until we get Monkey D. Luffy as a commander at some point, you know.
I mean, there is a One Piece trading card game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's also why I'm never going to get a Kingdom Hearts Universes Beyond, which kind of breaks my heart because of Lorcana and Disney, and then One Piece has their own thing. Yeah, that is true. That's true. Anyway, happy 2025. Welcome to the new year. This is this the first thing we've recorded in it? No, this is not. No, because we did working on our little 2024 little chaos draft video that'll be going up here soon. Got all the footage. We did our little gameplay things. No spoilers, but it was a fun time. We got on
time.
Wyatt, the typical Gemini. You can check out the YouTube channel to keep abreast of that situation. But this is not a chaos draft of 2024's Magic Packs. This is a podcast, the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast, a D&D and Magic the Gathering podcast. I am Connor.
And I am Sam.
And we are the Dungeon Bros, but we are not brothers.
Nor are we in a dungeon.
No, in fact, we are in two separate houses.
Two separate non-dungeons.
Different states even, though mine is very close to yours state.
Yes.
So, you know, it's a whole to do. Yes, indeed. But yeah, we had recently our 2024 review and 2025 preview podcast that we pre-recorded a little while ago with Wyatt. That was really fun. Nice way to cap off the year, start off the new year. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, Sam? Are you going to make any big changes in your life going forward?
Now, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I resolve to do things and then usually give them up a few days later, but, you know.
Honestly, kind of same. Like, it always feels arbitrary, and then people will, like, stick with it, and we're recording this on January 14th, and by this point, most people have already given up
right?
on a lot of their resolutions.
Hopes, dreams as well. They've given up on those things.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to inaugurate a new president, so, you know. Everything. Nothing crazy has ever happened at a presidential inauguration before, so we've got nothing to worry about. California's not on fire. We haven't had, like, mass murder going on anywhere. We haven't had massive casualties because of snow and ice and wind. None of that. None of that is happening. Everything is good. Nobody's been driving cars through crowded downtown streets in the middle of New Orleans. Not happening. So instead, we get to talk about D&D and Magic the Gathering as we do every other week. You can get this podcast for free every other Monday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple podcast services round the globe at around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get it a little early, you can get it the week before on Wednesdays on our Patreon, patreon.com/thedungeonbros. If you join at the $5 tier, you get all of the early ad-free access and all of that. And if you support at the $15 tier or higher, you get your name right at the end of the show, like Brandon Voll does every single week, because he's a freaking OG. One of the real ones. But
Realist.
Very, very much the realist. Very much the realist. We actually have a fair bit of stuff to cover because we've been kind of away from the podcast. We pre-recorded a little bit, our like year-end wrap-up thing, did things a little bit earlier, worked ahead, so we had a little bit of time. There's a little bit more of a break during the holiday season because, you know, breaks are important.
Yes.
Breaks are very, very important. So we ended up missing the entire D&D Artificer Unearthed Arcana.
It happens.
So, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. But we got some cool stuff. We're going to talk about the Innistrad Remastered, the full set review, some sales of D&D books for 2024, which I think people will find interesting. Some basic lands. And some rumors and a slot machine thing that people are all upset about. It's a whole to-do. So before we jump into all of that, Sam, do you want to go through the upcoming releases for D&D and Magic the Gathering as we do every other week on this podcast?
Absolutely. We'll dive right in. Coming out on February 18th of this year, the final core rulebook for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024 revision. That will be the Monster Manual.
Very well received so far from people that have been getting early copies. Like, I'm hearing, like, of the 2024 books, like, this one's one of the better ones.
I mean, you got to imagine with all they're adding and then plus all the cool art treatments they're doing, you know, that the art really is going to help this book in particular.
I agree.
Moving on, we finally have something to talk about in the D&D world, which is, first up, in this summer, we're going to have an unnamed dragon anthology. Love an anthology? Love a dragon. It's going to be named at some point.
Yes, there's been like rumors percolating around, but like Wizards is finally like actually being like, yeah, these things exist. We're not announcing them yet. just to get people to like calm down a little bit. But I mean, a dragon, everyone loves a dragon. Right. The anthology books are like some of the best D&D books that get released every single time, so.
Moving on, we have the first player's guide, which will be set in the Forgotten Realms, again, unnamed, and that will be coming late this year. And finally, wrapping up the D&D releases, we have an unnamed Forgotten Realms campaign, also to be released late this year.
What do you feel about their, like, we just got out of the Forgotten Realms with the 2014 stuff, and we're moving into Greyhawk now with the 2024 as like the home base for D&D. How do you feel about them just jumping right back into Forgotten Realms for their first like campaign release?
You know, I can only imagine they, you know, had been working ahead and happened to have the Forgotten Realms one, you know, ready to go, and then it was like, oh yeah, we're not doing the Forgotten Realms. So I'm sure that this is just kind of I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do campaign books generally when we play TTRPGs. I think there's absolutely a place for that, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's just not what we end up playing with our group. I think it would be interesting if it's like a nice little like, here's where D&D 5e has been. Here's a starting point, something you're familiar with, but now it's a little bit different. And then having that open the door to like other campaigns, maybe, who knows? All of it's really unnamed and like there's basically no information to talk about at all. So
yes, right now it is merely prophesized.
Indeed.
Anyway, moving on to Magic the Gathering releases. Very soon after this podcast, Innistrad Remastered will be released on January 24th. That's this year's total reprint set. We'll be talking about that just a little bit later. Next up, on February 14th, Happy Valentine's Day to all you racing fans. It's Aether Drift, the multiplanar racing set. Coming up on April 11th, we'll have Tarkir Dragonstorm. Very exciting to revisit Tarkir. Then on June 13th, we'll go visit the Universes Beyond of Final Fantasy.
I'm very excited for that one.
On August 1st, this will be the standard set rotation set. This will be the Edge of Eternities, the space opera sort of ordeal. Coming in later this year, we have the Spider-Man Universes Beyond, the first Marvel tentpole set. Don't know when that'll be released yet. Sure, we'll get to know soon. And finally, we have the unannounced Universes Beyond. Now, note, this isn't a Universes Beyond of the universe of unannounced.
No.
We might have... There's been some rumors floating around of what it might be, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Again, don't want to know in the week.
I was going to do it in the wrap-up. I think it makes more sense just to do it here. Let's go over this unannounced Universes Beyond. There's a little bit of a rumor mill going about what it could possibly be, and that is courtesy. We'll hop over to the Wargamer website, wargamer.com. They had a wonderful article about this. Matt Bassel. Many sharp-eyed Magic the Gathering fans spotted evidence which seemed to suggest that the final, currently unannounced Universes Beyond set of 2025 might be a crossover with Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you go to Magic Arenas, they've been having a lot of card styles, which are like alternate art, extended art versions of cards in your collection, for those of you that don't play Magic Arenas. And they've been on discount for a little while. And it's a series of cards, and you see a whole bunch of vehicles that had card styles discounted to represent Ether Drift, some more dragons to represent Tarkir, a bunch of crystal-related cards, which if you're familiar with Final Fantasy, the crystals are like a whole to-do in most of the Final Fantasy games. Then you had 8 cards with Star in the name for Edge of Eternities, and then 8 spiders to represent Marvel's Spider-Man. But those were not the only card styles that were being discounted. There was also a set of cards that many people seem to be believing is pointing towards Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically Into the Fire, Waterknot, Earth Cult Elemental, Airdrop Aeronauts, not astronauts, Distended Mindbender, and Oswald Fiddlebender. So you got a representation of the 4 elements and then 2 cards with Bender in the names. If you're not familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender, it was I hesitate to call it anime. It was a cartoon with a lot of anime influences, I would say.
It's a Western anime.
A Western anime would be very good for that. As it was on Nickelodeon for a long time. It had several seasons. It was very, very popular. Had a spin-off later with Korra. But Avatar: The Last Airbender has been a very popular franchise for a while. And if this little like tongue-in-cheek reference on Magic Arenas is to be believed, we could absolutely expect to see the last unannounced Universes Beyond set being an Avatar: The Last Airbender set. What would you want to see out of that if that's what this last Universes Beyond is?
Well, first, to get it off the get it off everybody's mind, I would really like to see a full set, and not beyond boosters ever again. But of course, seeing this is a standard set, it should be. I would love to see, of course, what they're going to do with the avatars themselves and how they're going to do the different bending styles. Mm-hmm. How are they going to incorporate that as a mechanic? But also, you know what I really want to see? Obviously, I want to see an avatar with Aang having the avatar state. But then I also want to see the Ember Island players' avatar with their avatar state being avatar state yip yip. That's a reference.
Sure. That is a reference for sure. So obviously we can intuit that each of the bending styles would have a color associated with them. Air, I would assume, would be white, water blue, fire red, and earth, I assume, would be green. What would you expect would be the representation for black in that color identity? Would we get weird like future references with like blood bending, or just like red would be or black would be tacked on to like more evil aligned characters of various bending styles, and would be just kind of like a mix color for the set?
We've had many discussions here at the house I live in, and one thought that kind of has come up was it could represent spirits, because there's a lot of spirits in Avatar, kind of the pre-bending sort of ordeal, and I don't think this will end up being the case, but non-benders.
Interesting. Well, yeah, because there are a fair number of villains in the show and references to bad guys that are not benders in the show and not able to manipulate the elements at all. Obviously, I feel like we would have to get multiple versions of Aang.
Oh,
like a white one, and then a white blue one, and then a white blue green one, and then a white blue red green one, and then probably all 5 colors as well for like an avatar state.
That'd be cool.
That would be very interesting. That'd be very interesting. It would be really cool if they could. Oh, that would be so difficult with all the stages, because I'm thinking like you could do how they did with Frodo, the Scout one, where it's like it starts out as just a white creature, and then you can pay mana into it, and then becomes a white-black creature, like evolving it over time. But I feel like that many stages on a single card would be like super difficult.
You know what I could see them doing is, are you familiar with Reef Worm? It is a 3 and a blue for a 0/1 worm creature that says, when this creature dies, create a 3/3 fish that says, when this creature dies. Maybe do something like that.
That would be interesting if it was making like Aang tokens.
Yeah, right?
As you like evolve it, and like each one has like you have to pay like a certain amount of mana to evolve it to the next one, in which case you sacrifice it and create a new one. Like that would be an interesting way to work around that. But I personally think they're just going to do like multiple versions of Aang and that kind of
I
stuff.
think so as well.
But
I think so as well.
yeah, this is all, of course, rumors and speculation. None of this is confirmed in any way. But if you are a conspiracy theorist and you think the team over at Magic Arenas is giving you a little wink and a nod about what's coming up, then there you go. Our unannounced universes beyond maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender. But let's get into the top story of the day. Digital sales and just sales numbers in general for Dungeons and Dragons for 2024. The vice president of Wizards of the Coast was talking about Dungeons and Dragons, along with some information from Jeremy Crawford and Wes Schneider, which are the co-leads for the 2024 Monster Manual. The most interesting bit of news and information that came from this in my mind is in the 4 months that we have had the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, the sales for the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide have reached the same number of copies that it took 3 years for the 2014 version of the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide to achieve. And that includes all language versions of the books as well. So not only is this edition of D&D selling to the same player base that the original 2014 was, it's selling at a much faster rate than the original 2014. I'm sure they're very, very pleased about that. Some other interesting numbers to go along with this. 3.6 million characters have been created on D&D Beyond with the 2024 rules revision. There's a 19 million registered users of D&D Beyond, as well as 1.3 million maps that have been used on the D&D Beyond virtual tabletop. This is different from the 3D tabletop that they've been talking about and testing and working on behind the scenes for a while now. I think these sales are really emblematic of something that we've talked about on the podcast a fair bit, of the very vocal and negative minority of people about these products. People talked a lot of shit about 2024's revision to D&D, and rightfully so. We were amongst those people. But what we weren't were the people that were like, oh, when this book came out, we still had a grudge against it. Like when we got the Player's Handbook, we were like, this is an improvement in a lot of ways. It's different. It's not exactly what we've grown to love about the 2014 version of D&D, but it is an iteration of that in many ways is an improvement. And the same, I think we can say about the Dungeon Master's Guide as well. And from what it looks like the reception is in this preview environment for the Monster Manual is even more true as these books have come out more and more. And once we have all three, we can get a better picture of them. But even before the Monster Manual has come out, the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide have sold at a much faster rate than than the previous version of D&D 5th edition. And I think that just really goes to show that vocal minority that was really loud on Twitter, that's really loud on Reddit and like Discord servers where people are talking about this. That's not the vast player base of people that are playing D&D at all. Mm-hmm. And I like to imagine we've been trying to push that perspective a little bit, but it is nice to be a little bit vindicated. What do you make of these numbers? What do you make of these numbers, Sam?
Wizards, of course, has a lot of benefits with this 2024 revision versus the 2014 revision. Obviously, D&D is a lot more popular than it's ever been, and especially since it has the boost that it's gotten in the past 10 years from internet shows like Critical Role and Dimension 20 and so many others. So obviously, the player base has just grown dramatically. 2, this is a great jumping on point for a bunch of new players. And like you said, there are so many people that catastrophized every little change that we saw that came through the Unearthed Arcanas, that came through, the videos that Jeremy Crawford was doing with for the lead up to the release. But there are plenty of people out there who are excited to play D&D. who are excited to start playing D&D and for the first time, and those who are interested in DMing for the first time. I know I've heard some people who previously were like, oh, I've never had an interest in DMing, but now the new version's coming out, why not try?
That is true. It is a great like onboarding point. I do also want to add one addendum to my previous statement. The loud vocal people on Twitter and online were absolutely instrumental in getting some very good changes for this revision of D&D, specifically with the OGL licensing situation entirely. Like, that backlash was paramount in getting not only the removal of their original plan for the OGL, but now it's all Creative Commons. So, like, while you can't just get the books for free in Creative Commons, you can get the basic rules for 2024, and you can do whatever the hell you want with them. And that would absolutely have not been possible without the backlash and the very vocal people online that were talking about it and petitioning and pleading with them to change their ways. But I definitely think that OGL controversy primed them to be like on the offensive for basically anything that Wizards was doing with D&D. And it didn't help that they did a really terrible job of messaging we're throwing some crazy stuff at these play tests and seeing what people like and seeing what they don't like. This is not going to be emblematic of the final product. Like, we're not going to go like completely different with it, you know?
Yeah, I've said for a long time that, you know, as fans of content, there are so many things that people have the right to be upset about, especially in the past several years of just video games coming out incomplete, shows coming out that have nothing, that have no storyline essentially, and you know, there's plenty of reason to be upset. Unfortunately, that has given a lot of people the confidence, I'll say, to be upset at everything. And not everything needs to be, you know, everything. There's always a place for critique. Not everything needs to be the end of the world.
No. In fact, I would argue very few things need to be the end of the world.
True.
Now, would it be the end of the world if 2024's D&D didn't have an open gaming license and you had to like pay for it and they were crushing third-party stuff? No, it wouldn't be the end of the world because it's a game. It's a game we really love. It's a game that a lot of people's livelihoods are built on. People would have adjusted. Yeah. Businesses would have shifted, and people would have moved away from D&D, and it would have been really bad for them. And Pathfinder may have been the new thing. Warhammer 40K may have been the new thing. Daggerheart, something else may have cropped up to take D&D's place in that situation, but that's thankfully not what ended up happening.
Or people would have adapted, you know? If a chef goes into a restaurant, an interview at a restaurant, he brings his own knives, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think these numbers are reassuring. These sales numbers are reassuring that we're not crazy with what we've been saying. I mean, we are, but no, I'm glad that the books are selling well. I'm glad that people are liking them. If they were selling really well and people are like, these are shit, you know, then I'll be like, oh man, that's not a good messaging for them to be receiving, just getting all that money. But I mean, people are really liking what 2024's D&D has in store. We're about to get the monster manual, and it's about to actually like finally really start. So it's an exciting time to be sure. You have anything else you want to say?
Let's talk about a little bit of Innistrad, you know?
Innistrad Remastered. The entire set for Innistrad Remastered has finally been revealed. You can see previews on various websites. We like to use MTG Goldfish, but you can see every card that is going to be printed in the set. Obviously, there are going to be some very expensive chase cards, things like Edgar Markov, Emrakul, Bloodline Keeper. Lot of good value, lot of good reprints in this set. I don't know how you would particularly want to do this, Sam. I don't have too many cards I would really want to point out. I think Getting a Meat Hook Massacre reprint is huge. Edgar Markov finally getting reprinted. Emrakul, The Promised End, getting reprinted. I think those are just good to help bring the price of things down. I will also say that this, much like the other remastered sets, seems to be very well curated. They very interestingly made a point to not reprint any cards with the Daybound Nightbound mechanic on it. So like all of the transform stuff have their own rules for transforming, and we're not getting Daybound Nightbound. I kind of was okay with Daybound Nightbound as a mechanic. It was kind of hard to work around a little bit for my vampire or my werewolf deck that I had. But I was always kind of into it. I was a bit of a fan. But I understand the frustration with that. What cards are you excited about? What do you make of this Innistrad Remastered mere days away from its full release?
You know, I've been really getting, you know, we've been playing a little bit of Limited over the past year, and I really have been starting to like the idea of draft, the idea of non-constructed formats. And I will say, going through here, there is, you know, obviously Innistrad is a very emblematic, or very known and cool set, and I'd be really excited to go ahead and open this, not for the chase cards necessarily. Like, obviously, if you're playing draft, you know, and you open a Grizzlebrand, you gotta go all in on Grizzlebrand, or Grizzlebrand's not making it in your draft deck unless you're playing Reanimator. Even then. So yeah, this looks, just looking over the cards, there's so much cool you can do with vampires, with Reanimator, with Eldrazi.
Everyone loves Eldrazi.
Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, yeah. I love Eldrazi.
And they're, you can tell that they went out of their way to really make sure that they were hitting like some key like kindred groups. There's a lot of good human cards that go together. There's a lot of good werewolf cards that go together. There's a lot of good vampire cards that go together in Eldrazi, all of that kind of stuff. Some very good, I'm very pleased to see, very good land selection in the rare slot. We're getting the reprinting of all of the 2-color lands that enter untapped if you control 2 or more. Which would be a nice reprint, good for people to stock up for commander decks and all of that. Miracle is coming back.
Yeah.
It's a nice, fun mechanic. If you draw it as the first card for your turn, you can cast it at a much reduced rate by revealing it immediately and casting it. But yeah, I'm pretty jazzed. I'm excited to open them up a fair bit. I might get an entire booster box, but caveat here. With basically all of these remastered sets, except for Time Spiral, the very first one, the price of this goes way down. So if you're like, I like it, but I'm not like eager to play it right now immediately with my friends, maybe wait a couple months and get it for a bit cheaper. See how the price of things shakes out. See if you really actually want it, you know. But yeah, we're definitely going to be picking up some packs of this and making sure we're setting them aside for our 2025 limited as well. Should be very fun. I don't have any cards that I want to particularly shout out anymore. Do you have anything you want to point out as something you're real excited for?
No, I think you're right. I mean, obviously it's a total reprint set, and usually when we do set reviews and things like that, we love to hit new cards that are coming out. You brought up something, that's werewolves. The Daybound Nightbound mechanic really sucks mostly in constructed. I would love to see them in the future. I'm sure we'll visit Innistrad again. I'd love to see them try again with werewolves, you know? Call them something else. Were creatures. And
were creatures.
Whatever, you know? Find a new creature type. Make a better mechanic that involves you getting to flip them back and forth, because that's fun.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say one really cool thing. I wish they were partnered. Like, obviously, like, you can't change the text on the on reprint cards and like change them mechanically, but Gisela the Broken Blade and Brisella Voice of Nightmares that meld together to make Brisella Voice of Nightmares as the 910 Eldrazi with all the crazy... It'd be really cool if those were partner with commanders. I'm sure you could absolutely rule zero that and make like this really terrifying Eldrazi Angels deck and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, very excited for Innistrad to fully come out and check that out. But let's move forward to the big thing that we missed on our little pre-recording break that we've been going on for the last few weeks. Sadly, the feedback period for this Unearthed Arcana is already over, but D&D, if you go to D&D Playtest on D&D Beyond, you can get the Unearthed Arcana Playtest Artificer to read through. You can't submit your feedback anymore. That time has passed us. But we have a look of what 2024's Artificer might end up looking like. You can still download the PDF. It includes 4 subclasses that include the Alchemist, Armorer, Artillerist, and the Battlesmith, along with a new spell and several magic items. It is a half-caster-ish kind of class. It's a little bit better than some of the other half-casters because you have a guaranteed 2 cantrips at level 1 at the very beginning. You get free crafting of low-cost adventuring gear, so things like oil, ball bearings, chain, that kind of stuff. And then at level 2 is when you are able to replicate magic items. The cap for it now is based on level, so specific magic items fall in certain tiers of levels, as well as you are limited by the number of plans that you know for how to replicate magic items, and you can swap out those plans with long rests, much like many of these abilities. You get up to level 5 spells and level 5 spell slots, and of course you get a wider array of magic items that you can replicate as you level up through the class. The 4 core subclasses, Alchemist is a support subclass where you're making potions. You use them for healing. You can use them for buffs like flight, speed increases, armor increases, etc. The Armorer is the kind of tank subclass. It comes with arcane armor, and you can make special weapons to attach to the armor, and it's kind of more of a physical damage focus over a magical damage focus Artificer. The Artillerist is the one with guns. You get to make your Eldritch Cannon, which is kind of like your turret. You shoot things, and then they die. And that's the whole plan. The Battlesmith is the one where you create your Steel Defender. It's I would argue, one of the more classic and popular Artificer subclasses from the old Artificer. You get your little robot dog. You get your little robot Colossus that, like, whatever. And it's running around and doing stuff, and you're buffing it, and you can cast spells through it and all that kind of stuff. The new spell is another one of those make-a-dude spells. It's the Homunculus Servant. You can make a homunculus, and it's got a whole stat block there. And then the selection of magic items are specific to the subclasses in ways that you can buff the various various Artificer subclasses: Artillerist, Alchemist, Armorer, and Battlesmith. So nothing like groundbreaking in the new spells and magic items department. Just kind of like a set of default options that the Artificer can take for their magic items to at least help themselves. And then, of course, you can make things like bags of holding and all of the normal things that you would like out of your Artificer. We're not going to go too deep into this subclass and go like ability by ability because, frankly, it's the Artificer. It's in a lot of ways very similar to what we've already gotten, refined, simplified, which I think is the key thing here. What do you make of the 2024 Artificer, Sam?
My problem, so I've tried to make 2014 style Artificers before, and I know there are people out there who are just dedicated to this class. However, going through, it always failed to me mechanically and a lot flavorfully. So like you said, simplifying it down, refining it, it really needed that change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I like the method of replicating magic items and knowing the plans. That was always the biggest decision point for an Artificer. You're still limited in the number of magic items that you can have at any given time. It caps out at 6. And you could technically attune all of them yourself. to yourself as you get more attunement slots as you level up. But being able to know a bunch of plans and being able to change the plans on long rest and that kind of stuff is a nice little quality of life. A limiting factor for a subclass that in some ways was way too wide open, which was ultimately the problem with the Mystic that we had a very long time ago, and is the reason that was never actually printed into a book. Yes. That it was too customizable and too varied. It was a bit more of a gamer's subclass more than just like a good subclass for the game. But you can check that out on D&D Beyond. You can still download the PDF. You can download the PDF of all Unearthed Arcanas, actually. So that's pretty cool. Do you have anything else you want to say about the Artificer?
Artificers do be artificin'.
They got that I'm not going to make that joke. Anyway, moving on. We got 2 wrap-up items. One of them is a small controversy that I think is largely overblown, and then one of them is... it's a little funny. So we'll start, of course, with the thing that people are upset about. Wizards of the Coast supposedly going all in on a new D&D gambling game. Hasbro recently announced a licensing deal with the gambling company Global Games to produce a number of new products, including a digital slot machine titled Dungeons & Dragons Tales of Riches, which will be hitting casinos and online gaming platforms sometime in early 2025. Obviously, people are very upset about it because it's gambling. Questioning why they would do it. For money. Because they're a company. A lot of companies have been moving away and phasing out their IPs from casino games. Star Wars, a lot of Disney properties have been doing that. I think this is ultimately much ado about nothing. If you're going to be going to a casino and gambling on a slot machine, you're already there and intending to do that, quite frankly. The one more reasonable critique I have is the online gambling and iGaming stuff. A lot of that is very, very predatory. I mean, the entire reason that the streaming website Kick popped up was to promote gambling websites entirely. And I can understand the fear of getting kids into gambling in this way. Ultimately, I think much like most things when it comes to protecting children, it's incumbent on the parents to know what their kids are doing and parent them to not do this. What do you make of the slot machine, the D&D slot machine?
Well, here's what I'll say, is that, of course this was going to happen sooner or later. You know, they already have one of the best gambling systems set up for Magic the Gathering. And just opening packs. So I'm only joking a little, where obviously Magic the Gathering opening packs, searching for those chase cards is 100% gambling.
No, absolutely.
Whether you're selling it or you're just looking for that serotonin kick. But yeah, a D&D based slot machine, I don't know. I didn't grow up around gambling, and so it's never occurred to me. Like you said, there's Star Wars style, and other IP branded gambling. If you grow up around it, you're probably not going to think about it. Or you don't grow up around it, you're not going to think about it. If you do grow up around it, then, it's something you do have to be concerned. You do have to think about how you're going to concern yourself with it. I don't think it's the end of the world, like you said. Again, most things shouldn't be. In the end, we'll see. We'll see if this ever comes up again.
Yeah, I can't imagine it will. I feel like the children to D&D slot machine online gambling, losing all of your money pipeline is a very small one. Like a very, very small, like 1/8 diameter pipeline, But I mean, of course, that when you concern yourself with gambling, I mean, you're opening yourself up to criticism, for sure. I would rather do my gambling in the realm of Magic pack openings than D&D slot machines, personally.
Yeah, same.
But also, kids have been like in the gambling scene in a lot of ways that people are totally okay with in terms of like card pack openings, sports cards, Magic, Pokemon, all of that. The mystery box, like Lego minifigures, all of that kind of stuff. Like it's all gambling in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously different than a slot machine. Obviously very different than a slot machine, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it. They're just going to get their bag for a licensing deal and move on and be totally fine. Last wrap-up item for the day. New Secret Lair Chaos Vault. It's... Listen, I have a lot of problems with this. And quite frankly, none of them is the very suggestive island art. What I'm upset about is you're paying $30 for 10 copies of a single type of basic land. You're paying $30 for 10 swamps with a cool art. You're paying $30 for 10 islands that look like... Yeah. Or you can pay $40 to have them in foil. So you can have a blinged out island that, for whatever reason, even when you crack an Evolving Wilds, no man will be able to find. But so yeah, ultimately, like, obviously people are lasered in on the fact that the island is some people are drawing a comparison to a female's body parts. I am way more concerned with the fact that you're paying $30 for 10 basic lands or $40 for 10 foil basic lands. Why this isn't just $30, you get 50 basic lands, 5 of each, or $40, you get 50 foil basic lands, 10 of each. Like, why that isn't just the standard for basic land Secret Lairs is beyond me, quite frankly. And that is the one that upsets me more than anything else. What do you make of this Chaos Vault drop? Which, by the way, the name Chaos Vault implies like you're getting weird with it. Which, I mean, obviously the islands have been drumming up a lot of chatter online for being a little bit suggestive, but you're printing out basic lands in your Chaos Vault.
Yeah, you're not even doing it chaotically. You're getting this. You can pay for 10 of the same lands.
That's something.
It's not. Look, you can pay, like you said, you can pay $3 a land for the Strange Sands Island or the Strange Sands Swamp, or you can probably head over to a proxy printing website and pay $2 for $2 per land for 10 lands, or if you get 100 of them, you pay $1 per land. If that's really what you want to go with, you know what? The artist, I'm sure, worked hard on this. And is
Scott
a great
Ballmer.
Yeah, great artist.
Very good art. Like they all look fantastic. It's just
Not
pricing
worth paying.
scheme on it.
Yeah, it's not worth paying Wizards of the Coast $3 or $4 land.
Ooh. Hot off the presses, I'm adding this because I completely forgot. This came out yesterday. Did you see what I saw on the article? Here, I'll put it in. Sorry, hot off the presses. This is from yesterday. Do you have anything else you want to say about the Chaos Vault? I don't. I think the island is funny, but whatever. We've got some D&D themed promo cards for Magic the Gathering. Spring Flourishes is what it's called. From April 25th to May 25th, participating local game stores will be hosting special draft events. The exact events will vary from store to store, but all promise exciting limited gameplay for a limited time. To help celebrate this gathering for Magic the Gathering, players who participate in one of these events will receive a non-foil borderless card featuring a new version of one of the legendary creatures from the Secret Lair across Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves drop while supplies last. These feature new characters that feel right at home alongside cards from Commander Legends, Battles for Baldur's Gate, and you can meet your party of intrepid adventurers plus Themberchad as well. So we're getting Universes Within versions of the D&D Honor Among Thieves cards, as well as the Fat Dragon. All of these are just functional reprints of those Secret Lair cards, featuring Universes Within characters. Seems a little bit weird because I felt like D&D was already kind of Universes Within in a lot of ways. So it seems kind of redundant. But it's nice that they're just going to be promos that you can get for participating in limited events at your local game store, which is always nice. They also are partnering with local game stores. This came alongside an announcement where they're partnering with local game stores to get Secret Lairs specifically into local game stores. Ooh, hold on. The next time we have a drop that has mechanically unique cards in it, we're going to make a limited quantity of those non-foil drops available for WPN stores to sell directly to you. Those drops will be on sale in stores while supplies last after they go on sale on the Secret Lair website, but they'll be the exact same non-foil drops you could buy on MagicSecretLair.com, just from the person who runs your Friday Night Magic. It's a bit of a test, and it's one that they're excited about. So, several things. Secret Lair land packs, dumb, stupid, don't like them. Secret Lair is coming to your local game store to be sold directly to you. Interesting experiment. I'm intrigued to see how this affects the supply of these Secret Lairs, particularly in-demand Secret Lairs that sell out very quickly. And then functional reprint promos of the D&D Honor Among Thieves cards is also very interesting. Those cards were mechanically very interesting, particularly the Is It one that had the foretell, giving all cards in your hand foretell, was interesting. I really liked the human that gave Auras You Control Exalted. A lot of interesting stuff going on with those cards. What do you make of all of this Secret Lair shenanigans in the wrap up?
Secret Lairs seem to have been always just an issue for Wizards of the Coast. I know they're a moneymaker, but man, before our time, you and I playing Magic the Gathering, there was the issue with the Street Fighter and the Walking Dead Secret Lairs, where they also did mechanically unique character cards, and that's why we had Universes Within, was because people were upset that they couldn't get those in the Secret Lair format. And we've had the Honor Among Thieves, the D&D hat characters, as well as the recent Marvel characters as Secret Lair cards that are mechanically unique. So it is very cool, actually kind of cool to see them still keeping their promise all these years later to create these Universes Within cards.
I'm curious honestly, how long this will go on, since we're getting so many Universes Beyond stuff going forward.
That's true. I don't know. Also, that being said, these cards, the art is pretty dope on them.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the Mathis Surge Channeler one, the action pose that he has with all the magic going around him looks freaking sick. Also, the tiefling that they did for the druid that transforms into an owlbear, I think is what people were expecting the tiefling in the movie to look like more. Like purple, more pronounced horns, that kind of stuff. D&D Honor Among Thieves, we were pleasantly surprised by. We really liked it. And the cards for the Secret Lair were mechanically unique and interesting, and having the chubby dragon is adorable and awesome. So
yeah,
if you find yourself at a local game store doing one of these events, snag a cool promo. It'll be a good time. All right, that is all we have. I felt like we had a lot to go through, but we're clocking in a little under 50 minutes, which we like blazed through that shit, man. Let's go. It's almost like we both have like things to do.
Well, if you're gonna be one thing, you should be efficient.
That is true. That is true. We want to be respectful of your time as a listener, you know?
Now listen to us ramble for the next 25 minutes about nothing.
Exactly. So I was at the... I'm kidding. I did go on a really cool trip that I want to talk about, but it's not really the place, you know? This isn't a swimming podcast. No. I'm a swim coach for anyone that doesn't know. That's one of the things I do that's not this. Oh God, man, it feels good to be back. It feels good to be back into the swing of podcasting again and making content, and a lot of interesting stuff is in store in 2025. So glad to be here. Glad we made it this far as podcast hosts. I'm glad we made it this far as a community of fans of these products. I'm glad that, you know, we haven't nuked ourselves into oblivion as a society. So
that's always good too.
Jury's still out. Still out, you know. But do you have anything you would like to say to our good friends before we depart these lands, never to return until 2 weeks from now?
You know, I like to always try and leave the audience with a little bit of clarity, a little bit of wisdom, and
okay.
No, you know what? Happy 2025. Let's do it.
Thank you very much to our $15 a month patron, Brandon Vole. I apologize. When I made the podcast thread posts several days before we record the podcast, so you can put questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas for the podcast to be read during the show. I was in an airport when I was doing this on my phone, and I totally mixed up Magic and D&D for the casino gambling thing. So, Brandon, I'm sorry, your comment of interesting, plus 500 if we open a Shieldred, not really applicable given the actual story. That one's on me. I apologize. You can smack me across the face the next time you see me as punishment. I think that's adequate. I think that's fair. But yeah, you should head over to patreon.com/dungeonbros. All of our patrons are going to get a special little bonus video when we release our 2024 limited gameplay on YouTube. We also ran it back after we were done recording that. We did a little 3-player commander game with Wyatt just to see how that goes. And you can get that exclusively at our Patreon very soon. Patreon.com/dungeonbros. You just have to join at any tier. It doesn't even matter. Yes. Sam, this has been a joy as always. We love you very much. And as always,
peace.